Hello and welcome to anyone joining myself and Cherie for a couple of minutes of conversation around group and team coaching. So, my name is Kate Manton. I am the agent of culture change, which means that I work with teams and individuals in unlocking their hidden potential as it relates to how they lead, how it relates to how they work and think. Because in today's environment of so much change and disruption, we've got to get the culture right. So I'm thrilled today to have Cherie join me, and I will hand it over to her in a second for her to introduce herself. But I just was super privileged actually, because Cherie was part of the team that trained me on how to be a coach. So I know firsthand that she is phenomenal at what she does. She is the tangible coach and works with groups, teams and individuals in making a difference. So great to have you on this conversation with me, or in this conversation with me. So what are we going to talk about? Well, we're going to debunk some of the myths and talk a little bit in more detail around what group and team coaching is, the benefits, the difference, when it can be used. So whether you are a coach that's just starting out and you're interested in what we have to say, whether you are someone who is leading teams or groups or communities and you're wondering, should I get a coach in? Is now the right time? What can they bring to me? Or whether you're someone who just wants to listen to the voices of myself and Cherie for a few minutes, welcome, and I'm sure you're going to take away something from the conversation. So, let's jump in. I'm going to hand it over to yourself, Cherie. Lovely seeing you again. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Kate. It's an absolute privilege to be here, and I was, to be honest, a little gobsmacked that you asked me, and yet at the same time really excited, because I love what I do, and I hope that shines out whenever I work with students on the coaching course, or whether I work with clients who are personal or corporate. As I said, I love what I do. There's nothing more exciting than watching change happen. And change happen internally with someone is just beautiful to watch. And when that is in a team or a group setting and it comes together as a collaborative, exciting change, it's just like, wow. And I like that you call yourself a change agent. I am a change maker, so we're in this together. And I've been in coaching now for over 15 years. It started from humble beginnings of needing a coach myself.
Often the way, right?
Absolutely, it grew from there. I was very new to coaching myself, and I found myself in a situation where I was incredibly stressed at work. And to be honest, I was being led by my ego. My ego was telling me I was unemployable because I could do it better than every manager I worked for. Every team I worked for and in was dysfunctional, and I'm sure I could have done it better. So I was fully stressed out and kept listening to my ego. So I left my job and found coaching, and the journey since then has been a roller coaster, up and down, but every bit of it has been fantastic, and I love every minute of it.
Oh, that is super. That's great. And if you're willing to, can you share a little bit about the non-coaching side of your life, some of the stuff that you enjoy doing when you're not coaching, when you're not being a change maker?
Okay. Funny you say that, because change is my biggest drive. I love change. I'm one of those strange people who loves moving house.
You are strange.
Yeah. Everybody tells me that. One of my favourite things to do is move, because I love the idea of out with the old, in with the new. And we have been, my ever-suffering husband, we've often just decided to give everything away. So we will give our entire home's worth of everything away, including our cars, our garden furniture, and we will move and make a change. Never buy anything new except the mattress on my bed. Everything else is second-hand, upcycled, recycled, and I love all that change. I love all the new that you can get from old.
Wonderful.
And travel. Travel is the other thing I like to do. I travel a lot, and I'm privileged that the way I work, I can continue to travel. I'm a mum of two amazing adult daughters who are just my light in life every day and motivate me every single day.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, I am married to the ever-suffering Ian. We've been together a lifetime.
Ever-suffering? I'm sure that's not the case.
I think if you asked him, you would realise it. Yeah,
okay.
She wants to change all the time. She wants to move again. So,
she wants to give away the car. What's going on?
Give away the car again. Yeah, I'm a change maker in many ways, especially with myself. I have what's called a portfolio CV. I worked many years in the hospitality industry, worked my way up to managing hotels and restaurants, from being a waiter, pot wash, right all the way through, and absolutely loved it until I got to a stage where I needed change because I couldn't go any higher. I've worked for the defence realm as well, working in corporate roles in the defence realm. I'm an ex-army reservist. I'm a laughter coach, a laughter yogi. I love to walk, I love to kayak, I love to just be outdoors. So that's me in a
brilliant. There's some hidden things going on there. You're a woman of mystery. And I love what you just said about the laughter coach and the laughter yogi, because when we think about kind of one of the reasons people go into coaching, a lot of it is around self-leadership. And I think humour and laughter are two of the underrated superpowers of self-leadership, right? Diffuses tension, builds connection, and also just reminds us there's so much stuff happening in the world. We just can't take ourselves too seriously at times, right? Absolutely. And so I love that you do that. I tried to do laughing yoga once, but I was laughing too much to actually do anything. So I'm not sure if that means it was a success or not. But in any case, brilliant.
If you laughed a lot, you were doing okay, because it's a medicine as well. It's one of the best medicines we can give ourselves, and a great de-stressor. So I'm sure it worked a bit.
Oh, I love it. Somebody once called me, because I live in Wales and I'm half Welsh, somebody once called me the laughing Welsh dragon. I wasn't quite sure how to take that, but I took it with I said, this is a great compliment. I mean, I don't mind it at all. The dragon piece I was curious about, but the Welsh and the laughing, I'll take that any day. Any day.
The dragon, power and intelligence I get from the dragon.
I love that. Yeah, I'm going to take that. Thanks, Cherie. Okay, so let's get stuck in. So I've got a couple of questions to trigger the conversation. Again, really just so curious as to your take on all of this, and maybe how things have evolved as well since you started coaching about 15 years ago. First of all, I want to talk just about defining coaching, right? Because we know that there's coaching, there's mentoring, there's facilitating, there's training, and they're all uniquely different, but sometimes they do kind of overlap. So when we think about how you define coaching, how would you define it when you think about working with teams and groups?
Okay, so they're very different dynamics for me personally. For me personally, coaching to start with is, as a coach, we are a facilitator. We are a safe space. We are a bouncing board. We are a magnet. And the magnet is for the decisions and the ideas and the answers that are already inside you, the client. So with the coach will be there, and they will give you that space where you are allowed to be totally yourself. Build an authentic connection where, as a client, you're able to just say how you feel, say what you want without any judgment. So it's a total safe space. So that to me is coaching. And the coach asks you questions. The coach does not give you answers. And I think with teams and groups, the dynamics are different, because in groups, it's often, not always, but often in the majority, it is a group of strangers coming together with a common outcome. They're looking for a common outcome, whether that is a new model to use on themselves, whether it's some training they want to participate and become trained up in, or a team is usually a group of people who either work together, know each other because they're in the same company. It's usually business related, where group is often business or personal. So there's a little bit of difference there, tiny overlap with the fact that group can be either, it can be corporate or business. But team coaching is primarily, if you take out the sports team and focus on what we are talking about here, then team is usually a business side, a professional side of your life.
So when we think about why you started coaching, and you have coached individuals, teams and groups, how does that kind of separate out as you think about where you spend your time, and what attracts you to the team and the group piece of the coaching?
Okay, so very different reasons behind. Team building, I love team building because we can see a dysfunction happening. We can see individuals who at the beginning of a team coaching program may feel isolated even though they're in a team. And when you work through the team dynamics and you find that there is a common shared goal at the end, or a search for the team, then they will come together. And it's a beautiful thing to all of a sudden see individuals who felt lonely at work feel part of something bigger. And then you find the people who brought you in as a coach, the main manager, the owner of the business, they feel a sense of, gosh, we're all on the same page, finally on the same page. And that's what I get out of team building, and I love watching that. Group coaching, what I love is you get individuals who come in feeling they're on their own. Yeah. And in both sides of it, you end up with a collaboration of support, of peers, of opinions, of suggestions that can be shared between, so you don't feel like you're on your own. And so when you go in to do a learning environment, whether it's in a group or a team, you feel like you've got a peer support group around you.
And I think the wonderful thing about group coaching as well is, whilst people might come in individually and then during the coaching process they start connecting and feeling part of a network or a community, those bonds stay when they've left as well, don't they, in many instances. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what's great, is because you come in as an individual with an idea or a goal, but you leave with a peer group of support. But like my very first original coaching course that I did 15 years ago, I'm still in contact with, and actually I was in the UK recently and I caught up for lunch with two of them.
It's wonderful.
We never see each other apart from, once every quarter we get together on a Zoom call and chat and see how to support. So it's really key that you then find that you've got that group mechanism there. So yeah, absolutely.
And it's really powerful, isn't it? Because it's built on that common either pain or problem or goal or gain that you're after, that really allows you then throughout the course of 10, 15, 20 years to stay connected.
Absolutely. And that
wonderful.
Is a great thing.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Because coaching can be a lonely thing. Coaching can be a lonely business, especially when you work for yourself from home rather than in a corporate position. So it's a great thing.
Well, it's very different. I mean, I guess that's another thing, right? You can work remotely. We can coach people from the UK and France, where you're based in, China, Japan, the US, Mexico. It's wonderful from that respect. But yes, you don't have that community of people that you are talking to day in, day out, under the same guidelines, principles, rules, objectives. So, okay, wonderful. So when we think about the dynamics we'll start with team coaching. How do you prepare for that? So if you're going to do a team coaching, if someone's come to you and said, Cherie, we've got this challenge and I'd really like you to come in and help unlock some of the thinking behind it, what kind of dynamics do you then start planning for and preparing for, possibly even with the leader of that team?
First of all, I don't think that I can ever be prepared for every dynamic or every situation that's come up. So be prepared for the unprepared.
Great.
Be prepared to be imperfect at what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Know that every person walking in that door, although they're working for the same team and they're daily seeing the same team, they are still individuals and they have their own individual things. So the dynamics is about working together. Communication is the biggest thing, so communication is the thing that I would prepare the most. And learning that each individual has a strength, has some area they need support on, and just finding who can support where. And I think that's really the only preparation I ever really do. And I walk into a room and wait to see what's in there waiting for me.
Because everyone's in there for a reason, right? Everyone brings something to a team, so it's unlocking that and seeing how you can magnify that as they're all working together. Okay, wonderful. And then group coaching, how does that differ when you think about some of the dynamics there?
That's a little bit easier because often a group is coming in to learn a topic or to discuss a topic or to share a common situation or pain point that they're going through. Mm-hmm. So you can prepare the models and the tools and the techniques that you're going to share and work with. And often with both these areas, we are giving suggestions. We're not giving answers, but we are giving suggestions. We're giving direction. We're facilitating. Mm-hmm. So with group coaching, it's a little bit easier because even though we still have to think about the individuals coming in, we have to be prepared for the unexpected. Mm-hmm. Know that you've got your basic text written and ready for you. So, and often there is a manual involved, there's often some pre-work to be done, and all of that can be done. And although you can do pre-work with a team as well, it's a little bit more on the individual side, whereas in a group it's on the topic side, so it's a little bit easier to get prepared for.
It's a really interesting distinction between the team individual piece and then the topic, which again comes from the fact that they're all coming from the same organisation to tackle an issue versus it's individual challenges around maybe a common theme or something. Okay, super. I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago and they asked me, to do group or team coaching, do you need to have a degree, formal or not, in psychology? And I said, well, if we do, then I'm on a, this is not happening. It's not happening.
It obviously helps to keep your personal development going. It obviously helps to be a reader and a learner yourself, but it's more about preparing yourself, like you mentioned before, for the unexpected. Because I think that's the main thing you need to have the psychology basis behind, is being ready for whatever comes forward. But no, if you do, I've been doing it wrong for the past 15 years, as have all my peers.
Well, we're all stuffed, aren't we, if that's the case? Like you know, rewind 15 years and start again. I just thought it was such an interesting question, and it came from somebody who had never had, to my knowledge, personal coaching or been part of a group or a team coaching session. So just trying to get their head around, what does a coach do? How do they unlock the type of questions that they ask? So it was
sometimes I think those kinds of questions, and I've had similar questions come up over the time, sometimes they come from a lack of knowledge of what coaches are, but also there is sometimes a perception out there that anyone can call themselves a life coach.
Yes.
So being associated with a governing body, an association that supports coaching, is a really good, no, I don't have the psychology degree, but I do have this, and you can check them out. It's a good answer to that as well. It is also really good to make sure that you have all your certification and your training up to date. That also can help with that answer, because again, it is just a lack of knowledge out there, because coaching, although it's been around for a while, in the mainstream, is still quite very young.
Yeah.
Especially in some of the Western countries.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And you're right, there are a lot of people that call themselves coaches, maybe for the right reasons, but don't necessarily or haven't necessarily gone through, you know. Okay, great. So can you just share a little bit, obviously, I don't need to say it to you, but, you know, keeping confidentialities, as to some of the types of organisations that you've worked with and the reason why they wanted somebody to come in and do team coaching, for example?
Good question. Most of mine have been off of my history, because I love the hospitality industry so much, and from an insider point of view, understand the dynamics, the issues and the struggles within the hospitality industry. It is my first go-to, and it's the industry that I work mainly with teams. Saying that, I work with corporate hospitality and individually run small business hospitality.
Oh, great.
So it's, you know, it's very broad, and quite often, you know, there have been times when it's been a chain, a hotel chain that is very large. It's a corporation, and they have hundreds of hotels around the world, and sometimes it can simply be one city where there is someone in head office who has decided that the general managers of all the hotels in that area, they're not working together. Let's pull in a coach and work with the general managers at the top. So I've done that, and that's an insight. That's a really interesting one to do. And then I've had where there's been a line manager, a head of department within a single hotel, who has said that their team is not gelling. There's something not quite right. Something's not working. Everyone's stressed, or my turnover is high. Can you come in and find what I need to do for staff retention? So it can be a simple lower echelons, the hard workers of the company, on the floor in the customer service facing that you work with as a team. And then sometimes it can be a single hotel from the GM down. So it's all of the areas, and it works in every single one of those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess if I think about myself, I would think then for me it's more around kind of operations, marketing, market research, that area. So to your point, it works. The approach of coaching can work in, you know, in various different spaces and environments, but having kind of grown up or been or having some kind of experience in those areas, those industries, helps you just understand and be even more impactful in that space.
It does indeed. It does also lead into mentoring and consulting, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure, but there is a very strict guideline there to make sure that you adhere to. But just the understanding of the backstory of a company is really helpful. But it doesn't mean that I can't go out and work with a team in a bank or in a hospital, because that's also happened. Or I can't work with a team for a very small business who only has 5 staff members, because that also works.
No, absolutely. So if we think about kind of the benefits, and we've touched upon it a little bit throughout the last couple of minutes now, but if we really think about the benefits of a team or a group of people having somebody coming in externally, emotionally, I imagine you could say emotionally disconnected from maybe the situation that's happening, but connected in that you want to help them solve it. What are some of the benefits that bringing an external coach into, you know, a corporate team, for example, to help work through an issue can be?
First of all, there's no personal, emotional history baggage attached to the situation. And that is always key. A third person, a different point of view, somebody who's distant from the situation is always good to see the different point of view. I think there's also, although it's very important that as a coach you build up rapport and you build up safe space and you build up a place where the participants feel that they can open up and be totally themselves, you don't need to know them personally. And I think actually that's better, not to know them personally and not to know the history of what's been going on.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about it now, actually, and then we'll come back a little bit to my question around kind of how you see individuals grow in that kind of team and group coaching space. But we touched then upon mentoring and consultancy, and there are guidelines, and I think sometimes we take a hat off to put another hat on, and we need to recognise it. But can you share a little bit of your experience where coaching maybe moved into mentoring or moved into consultancy, but it was done in a very, very organised and managed way? Because to your point, as a coach, you are a coach, right? We're not giving the answers, we're not suggesting, we're helping pull that out of people that we're working with.
Exactly. So as a coach, if we're just talking coaching per se rather than teams and groups, coaching per se is not my story. It's not my likes and dislikes. It's your story, your desires, your frame. You frame it, I don't. So coaching is I come in or you come in, the coach comes in, and we dig out and we dig deep with deep questions, with open questions, to find out what it is that makes you tick and where you want to go forward. When you want to be a mentor, then mentoring is where you can start giving suggestions, you can start giving some of the answers, but only if you have walked in the steps that your coachee, your participant is walking.
Exactly, yes.
So the idea of being a mentor, for me to be a mentor to a doctor, no. But I can be a mentor to a hotel owner, a mentor to somebody working in the defence industry in the area that I worked in. So, and then consulting is where you come in and you actually help with systems and building systems, and because you've used them before, and then you can work with the owners rather than with the team members. So they're very, very different. Coaching is your story, mentoring is our story, and consulting is, these are what will help your story go further.
I love the way you've just described that, because, you know, people get confused. So I'm really hoping that anybody who's listening to this is actually leaving now going, aha. Because I think the whole piece of coaching and mentoring, if people don't truly understand the your story, their story, our story, the way you've just the way you've explained it, I think they can easily start merging, and you're not doing the job then that you're there to do. And you're not helping people, you know, get to the bottom of what it is they need to do as well. Super.
You're not going to be of any help to somebody who's looking for a coach by giving them the answers, because it's like going on a diet and being told what to eat every meal. It's like going to a gym with a personal trainer and being told, okay, this is what you do. Then the nutritionist and the diet stops, the gym, the PT stops, and then you're left on your own. And because you haven't been doing it yourself, it all falls away and it's not sustainable. Whereas one of the hardest things for a coach to do, especially a people-pleasing coach, especially a coach who's come in to help people, which is every single one of us, is to not give advice. So it's about coming up with some techniques to actually sit on your hands or bite your lip, or have a little mantra but the mantra one is a hard one because you have to be totally listening the whole time. It's a tough one, but it is something that is imperative to learn.
Absolutely. People need to leave with the mindset, the tools, the way that they can facilitate that change in themselves, right? You can't say, oh, Cherie's left or Kate's left and then it all falls apart. They need to be able to continue whether you're there or not. No, absolutely. So I think, there are some instances, and years ago when I was part of teams and, somebody would come in and do some coaching from a team perspective, right, on the corporate side, there was always a few people that were a little sceptical, right? A little bit like, oh yeah, we can do this ourselves, or we don't need someone who doesn't know us to come in and try and fix this or guide this, or it's all just a little bit of, woo-woo type of stuff. But I think a lot of time in the environments I've either been in getting coached, so being a coachee as it were, or I've been doing some coaching, often participants they leave going, oh, wow, I didn't expect that. So what do you think surprises most leaders or participants after they've been through a group or a team coaching session?
That they didn't know it all. That consciously they thought they knew it, but unconsciously there was a lot they didn't know. And also accountability.
Yeah.
Sometimes we all know what we should be doing. We all know what we want to do. We all know what direction to go in. But there are blocks, there are triggers, there are things that stop us going, and accountability is missing. So I think quite often, those people that go, oh, I'm an adult. Why am I being told how to adult? Adulting is something I've done for 30 years. It's not about that. It's about adulting differently. It's about teaming differently. It's about learning accountability stops with you, and it doesn't stop with somebody else being accountable for you. It's similar with, sometimes I will have a team leader who's come to me, we've done the team coaching, and then they come to me, they ask me to check in with them. And I flip it back, because it's really important that they learn that they check in with me. Because
they have to drive it. They have to be,
If I drive it, if you drive it. And I think that's where a lot of these teams are sort of skeptical at first, because they have a job description. They have a timetable, they have a schedule, they have a diary, they know how to do it all, but it's just not happening. And often it's not to do with any of those things why it's not happening. There are other things in the team dynamics that just haven't been noticed, aren't understood. It's simple things like individual personalities. Sometimes that's a big part, and people just don't understand that bit. So I love a set bit.
And it's really interesting, because there's often, whether somebody recognises it or not, there's some kind of level of self-leadership growth that they've gone through in this, right? So there's the team dynamics, the team output, but then individually, people being comfortable with the discomfort of that growth, that learning, that kind of going, wow, I've got to self-lead, and I've got to recognise that, one of the biggest characteristics, one of the biggest drivers of self-leadership is curiosity. Right? It's knowing that you don't know it all, that if you ask somebody, you'll get a different viewpoint. If you're wrong, what would you learn? And it kind of takes you to that next doorway of yourself, right? When you're uncomfortable with something, it's taking you to the next doorway of what you're next going to become and evolve and adapt into.
Which again is another reason why doing this in a team rather than individual coaching is great, because when you stand up and say in a team, you've been heard.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes when you're too nervous to stand up and say, and somebody else does, that motivates you to come forward and do as well. So you're bouncing, and the collaboration between you all bounces off, and you all learn individually and as a group. So absolutely.
No, that's super. So we've talked about, the approach, the preparation, or what we can prepare, which is just be ready to be unprepared because, you're going to deal with the unexpected.
Yep.
What about some of the challenges that can happen when someone is going to run a team coaching or a group coaching session? What kind of challenges or watch outs do we have that you've experienced?
One of the most poignant ones, and probably happens the most out of all of them, is the lack of willingness to open up in front of your team leader.
Mm-hmm.
So as a team, sometimes it's better that the team leader is not there so that the team feels safe and comfortable to open up. If that situation happens, then I will ask that the first part of the sessions or the program, the days, are without team leader, and then team leader is brought in later. Just so they get the feeling of community between them, and also they can get their authentic situation and issues up. And some team leaders find that hard to deal with. Some don't like that idea, and that is a one that you've got to work on individually with the team leader before you go in. So
absolutely.
That's always an interesting one. Sometimes it also challenges can be time frame expectations. I'm going to do this for a 1-day session. I want these answers in 1 day.
It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't work. That's why on an individual one-on-one basis, I never do a one session only, because there's so much to bring out before the answers can start rolling, and that happens. So those are probably my two biggest challenges that I've
great insight there, and I would thoroughly agree. And I think a leader, I think it depends if a leader has decided themselves, I want my team to get some coaching, including myself, or whether a leader has been told, you and your team are getting some coaching.
Yes,
because then there's a real element of that balance of confidence, humility, vulnerability in a leader to be able to be comfortable with actually the leader could be part of a block. The leader could be part of something that needs to shift fundamentally in the team dynamics to move them forward. So there's some great insights.
And I've had some leaders who are so soft, they're everybody's friend.
Yeah.
And
that's a problem in itself.
Absolutely, and they don't realise that. So it is very important. And again, not vilifying any leader, team leader out there, because I've been them myself. It is a really good, supportive leader who actually understands their own, and they need to be vulnerable. And like you said before, vulnerability is a key, creativity is a key, curiosity is a key, and all of these personal development things can only flow out to your team if you are willing to show up yourself.
Absolutely. You've got to lead yourself first before you can lead others, right?
True, and that's what I say about coaches as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit about kind of, what makes, and there isn't a perfect one, but what makes the perfect coach? What kind of characteristics and quality does a coach need to have? And we'll finish with that shortly. But before we do that, just a couple more things I'm interested in your thoughts on, if that's okay, Cherie. Sure. So I guess we've kind of touched upon it a little bit, but what do you think makes a team ready for being coached? Now, a group might be slightly different because they might have voluntarily put themselves forward to be part of a group coaching around a theme, an issue, a challenge. But a team, like we touched upon, might be full of skeptics or cynics or whatever it might be. So what makes a team really ready to be coached?
I think that can come from either end of the spectrum. It can, on a worst case scenario, it can be desperation. Stress to the hills and desperation.
We've got to do something, yeah.
Yeah, the other, or we're going to break. The other end would be motivation. Having a motivated, self-reliant space at work or in your job role, where you feel that they're listening to you, therefore we're getting coaching. That's motivating. When the other end of the spectrum, the desperation is, nothing works here, I'm stressed out, the whole team's the same, can't be trusted. Someone wants us to do coaching, well, there's nothing else to do. So it is a bit of a wide one, that one. But often it is just an ideal time would be a new team leader has arrived. That's supportive to the team leader. It could be a brand new team has been started. One of the corporations I did work in, it was a whole brand new department was started.
Yeah.
And an ideal time would be for, it would be bringing in a coach right at the beginning so that the communication contingency is there. The personalities are understood right from the start.
Yeah.
That's quite a rare one. So I think it's either end of the spectrum really is the most ideal.
But I love it, and they're very extreme words, but I think it's absolutely right, from a place of desperation or a place of motivation, because normally something in between is we can get on without it. But actually, that motivation, that wanting to raise the bar, raise the level, that kind of preeminence in performance, and then the desperation of somebody needs to come in and help us here.
But saying that, sorry to cut you off there.
No.
But saying that the ideal time is any time.
Yes.
Because preventative is always better than trying to cure an issue if you're trying to keep people motivated or fix the situation. So a preventative, regular, whether it's 6 monthly, yearly, for different departments, different whatever, to have a coaching program brought into as a regular thing, I think is the best way of doing it.
No, I love that. I love that idea. And I think sometimes the people that are real proponents of that and advocates of that are ones that have seen coaching in action, right?
Yes,
they see the benefits of it.
Yes.
So you need that person who's been there, done that, to go, this is what we need. This is why we need to do that. Almost like health check every 6, 9, 12 months. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Because it's a health check of the business. It's a health check of the team. And that's what I focus on with what I do with my teams and my businesses that I work with, my business owners and my coaches, is the health of your business and you. So it's not just the wellness coaching of a person, it's the wellness coaching of their life, which includes their work.
Absolutely.
It's key, especially today. It's so fast changing and chaotic.
Oh, I know. Change, disruption everywhere. And I think, a lot of people, myself included at times, we think kind of disruption is happening to us, but actually it's happening through us, right? It's how we show up, how we decide to respond. And there's so much change and disruption now that can be positively harnessed, but you've got to have the right mindset, the right support for it, personally and I think professionally as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's so cliche, isn't it? Life doesn't happen to you, it happens through you. And
absolutely.
Nothing more perfect has ever been said. It's entirely how you react to what is happening. Because
absolutely.
The moment you let go of that control, the moment things start to go smooth.
Yeah. Somebody said something to me, it was just this morning actually, we were talking about the importance of change, right? And the fact that, people want change, but they don't want to change. And I thought there was a great phrase that someone said, it was like, oh, we need to change, you go first. It was like, I think, yes, it was, I thought it was brilliant. It was just, really, really, fit the conversation we were having. So, have you had a situation rather, Cherie, where you've had resistance within the room? So you've been doing some coaching with groups or teams, and you've actually had conflict or resistance within the room as you've been in there.
Oh yes, it's more common than not.
I think so.
More common than not, and it shows up in all different kind of vices. It can show up with standing up and walking out the room. It can show up just being silent and saying nothing.
Yeah.
It can show up in weird looks across the table, across the room, or refusing to work in groups. Sometimes in a team situation, I will split up natural groups. People who have walked in together, you can know who's walked in together, you split them up. It shows up in all sorts of situations, and the key is that it's a non-judgmental space. If I'm making you feel uncomfortable, or if the subject is making you feel uncomfortable, let's talk about this uncomfort. Let's get it out there. Let's share if we can as a group. If not, then I will make some time to talk to someone individually after.
No, that's great.
It does show up all the time.
Yeah, I've seen it myself, and you kind of go, oh, this is an interesting one, but very often it's a very similar approach that coaches take to the different ways that it can manifest itself, and to your point, say show up. Okay.
Yeah, and I think the key thing there is it's not about you. It's not you, the coach. Don't take it personally. It's not you, although it might shock the first few times it happen, and it's very hard not to take it personally. Just know that it's not about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So we're almost at the end of time. I've got just a couple more things that I'm interested in your opinion on, if you don't mind sharing, Cherie.
Sure.
So what advice would you give to somebody who is thinking, do you know what, I keep hearing about this coaching piece, and people talk to me about bringing a coach in because, you know, if we think about it from a corporate, a team perspective, you know, the team has, you know, challenges in certain spaces. What advice would you give to somebody who is a little bit on the fence as to whether they should bring a coach in or not?
Sure, I would first of all say speak to someone who's already had a coach being brought in, speak to someone who's walked the walk and has had the experience. And also I would say check out a few. Don't go for the first one you talk to, but have a, you know, one-to-one conversation and get in depth what it is that you want from the coach. And if the coach is open and easy with the conversation and the direction that you want to go in, then talk some more. If they're not, or they start telling you what they think you need, then there's nothing wrong with saying no thank you, not right for me, and go check out another one.
Absolutely. It's got to be a fit, right? A fit both ways.
Absolutely has got to
Absolutely.
be a fit, because the most important relationship in the room to start with, not to end with, but to start with, is the team leader who has brought the coach in. Because that has got to be a really smooth transition, because then the coach has got permission to do whatever they need to bring out the best in the team, with any kind of kickback or
absolutely.
What's the word I'm looking for? Pressure from the team leader against the coach.
Yep.
The coach won't be able to do the work they've been brought in to do. So as long as that's 100%, I wouldn't even say 95%, I'd say 100%. You've got a rapport, you've got the same direction that you're going in, and that they have listened to your needs, then that's the one to go with.
Super. So, qualities and characteristics of a coach. Ooh. So this could be endless, but if I just think about some of the things we've just talked about now, we talked about curiosity, vulnerability, discipline, empathy. Absolutely. What else would you add on to that, Cherie?
Most importantly, that you've done work on yourself. A good coach is somebody who's learnt how to be a coach. A great coach is somebody who's been coached themselves.
Yeah.
And a superb, excellent coach is one that has a coach through their entire coaching journey. So don't go out with your qualifications and with your desire to help and with all your plans without having a support person. So, and you know, that is not a personality trait or an internal thing, but it is so important to have supervision, especially in group and team coaching. It's very important. Secondly, apart from the personal development yourself, is being a non-judgmental human. Having the ability to hear something and not let it shock you. Because judgment always comes from a space of shock. You've been shocked by something someone says, so you give a judgment back. And I think that is the number one key. But then also be absolutely open, not have any control, know that you have no control over what's coming next, be curious, and being somebody who is vulnerable enough to get a question wrong. Because if you ask a question and you get kicked back, it could be the question's wrong, but it could be the fact that you haven't built your rapport up and you don't have that open, safe space yet. So it's the ability to emanate safety, the ability to have authentic connection. So don't be this corporate jargon person if you're not. I am not corporate. I am not jargon. So you will never get that from me. So if I have a corporate jargon client come to me, I'm still myself.
Absolutely, that authenticity.
Absolutely. Authentic connection, I think, is the key to everything here. And that comes right down to the authentic connection you have with yourself.
No, I love that, the authentic connection you have with yourself. So to anyone who's listening to that, please take away that little nugget. That is excellent, like the authentic connection we have with ourselves. Well, Cherie, that's brought us to the end of this. I could keep talking to you about this for hours, right? But you know, you've got a life to live, and I need to give you a little bit of the rest of your day back. But that does bring us to the end of the chat. Cherie, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add before I close.
Not that I want to ask, except I'd like to say bravo, this is fantastic. You are a fantastic student and you're going to do amazing at this, because you have a sense of, I feel so comfortable with you, and I feel like we are on the same level in everything because we're just happy to talk to each other. And I think that's what all this is about. You know, it doesn't matter what level your team leader is compared to where you think you are. There's no imposter syndrome here. And I think that's beautiful. Just being authentically you is fantastic. Secondly, I would just say that if any of the listeners on here are starting a coaching business or considering going into coaching, look into it carefully, but look into yourself first. Make sure that you are ready for this, because this can be overwhelming. It can be incredibly rewarding, but it can also be overwhelming. But on that note, I think this is fantastic. I can't believe 45 minutes has gone so fast.
I know, it has. Even with a couple of tech challenges at the beginning as well, right? Which no one else needs to know. No, thank you so much. For anyone listening, I hope that you do have a clear idea of what group coaching is, what team coaching is, how it can transform performance, relationships, you personally. Like, there's so much that can be done and taken away when coaching is done properly. And if anyone wants to continue the conversation, then you have Cherie here, you have myself. Please feel free to, get in contact for a conversation should you need to. And thank you all very much. Bye-bye. Take care.